What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Friday. This video we're going over my Draftkings Fanduel and Prizepicks plays. For today we have 13 games on the main slate. All-Star break is quickly approaching, but I am super looking forward to the Home Run Derby. Should be an absolute blast. We got the best hitters, mostly from the NL East, competing in that. I got everybody except for the Marlins team has at least one guy competing in it. But let's go ahead and get into today's picks. As always, if you enjoy the content, appreciate it. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. Go through the three sites today. Go through DraftKings first. First game up on the slate is the Boston Red Sox against the Yankees. Age-old rivalry here. Nathan Eovaldi is making his return after missing about a month. He threw about 54 pitches in his most recent start in rehab, so maybe he gets up to 70. I know the All-Star break is right around the corner, so I don't know if they're going to push him more than like 80 pitches, probably max. So I'm not looking to pay $9,200 for him at all. And then on the other side, Jordan Montgomery, he's 87. He's an okay strikeout pitcher. Red Sox have a pretty low total, 3.8, but as we'll get to, there's a lot of good pitching options today that I really don't want to pay $8,700 for Montgomery. Next game up, the Braves stack looks really good today against Patrick Corbin. He's had one really good start this year. Otherwise, he's been giving up home runs, looking like the last couple years version of himself, where he's declining, velocity's down, giving up a lot of fly balls, and the Braves have so many good hitters, especially against left-handed pitching. Acuna, Riley, Ozuna, Contreras, they're all really good hitters against lefties, and even Swanson is in the mix, and Duvall, it's like all he does is hit lefties. So I like the Braves stack a lot. What a disappointment the Blue Jays were last night. They were by far the biggest favorite we've ever seen in baseball this year. Minus 420 for them on the money line, and they ended up losing by 2 runs against a pitcher that nobody's ever heard of, and against a team that had most of their lineup out, except for like Bobby Witt was like the only starter, consistent guy that's been there all season there, and maybe Lopez and O'Hearn has been okay for them, but today expect the Blue Jays bats to come back against Zach Greinke, a pitcher that won't strike anybody out. So looking at a lot of these guys being able to make contact, and got good price tags up and down this lineup. This is a FanDuel pricing. We look at DraftKings pricing. So got pretty good pricing on like Gurriel, who's batting almost 400 in his last 10. Good price tag for Chapman. Teoscar's been crushing it recently, and then don't mind paying up for like Bo Bichette. Also like the Guardians stack today against Drew Hutchinson. Josh Naylor is cheap. Franmil Reyes is cheap. He's starting to come around a bit. And then you got 3 guys, 2K flat at the bottom of the order. Nolan Jones has already shown off some of his upside this year. You got a 2K catcher if you need one. And then Straw is not really on my radar, but 2K outfielder if you needed one. But I'd rather go Nolan Jones instead. And then at top of the order, like Naylor would be my favorite. Kwan is okay. Just if you wanted a leadoff hitter that won't K and will get on base most times, a couple times a game, then he's in the mix. Next one, we have the Orioles against the Rays. Orioles coming in on a crazy good month so far. The month of July been the hottest team in baseball. This one, don't have much interest from the either side on offense. Don't have much interest in the pitchers either. If you wanted to look to anybody, it would be for the 2K second baseman for the Rays, Jonathan Aranda, who has top prospect appeal and will batting projected back cleanup for them. He definitely will hopefully continue to get better and start to do some good things for them in the coming future. So he'd be like the only guy that's really on my radar in this game. There's much better games and teams to stack today. We got the Mariners against the Rangers in the next one. Robbie Ray's been good for the Mariners this year. He got off to kind of a shaky start, but he's been starting to become more consistent. Going up against the Rangers will strike out a good amount. So I like Robbie Ray as a pitcher. I like his stuff on Prizepicks and his props on the sports books. The Astros look good again today against Cole Irvin, a lefty. So Altuve left the game after getting hit. So I don't know if he'll be in the lineup today. Probably not. But Diaz looks good at $3,200. He's been much better recently, as half of his home runs have come in his last 10 days. We have good price tag at the bottom if you needed anybody. And then for pay-ups, it would be for Pena and Bregman against lefties. Next one up, we have the Twins against the White Sox. Kopech against Smeltzer, 2 pretty affordable pitchers. Neither one looks interesting to me, except for maybe Kopech for tournaments, but he just doesn't go that deep into games, so his upside is definitely capped. The Cardinals are very cheap against Hunter Green. He's been good with the strikeouts this year. He still has like a 5.5 run ERA, so he's given up runs, and you got good price tags on the Cardinals, even though they've been one of the worst offensive teams in baseball over the last month. But if you wanted to consider anybody, like Edmonds, only $3,300. Obviously got the two power hitters with Goldie and Arenado, but I probably look to the value and look to pay up for other teams like the Braves, and I like the Rockies today against Quintana. Chris Bryant's been great since he's been back from injury. He's 57, he's expensive, but Iglesias had a 6 RBI game the other day. He's only 37, and he just doesn't strike out, gets on base, and high total, good chance to get some fantasy points that way. So those would be a couple that I'm looking at, and then Cron obviously mashes the ball in Coors. And then last couple of games here, mostly for pitching, looking at neither of these teams look great for me for the bats, except for maybe some of these Padres hitters against Bumgarner. So like Machado's really good against lefties. Kim, if you need a cheap guy. Nola as a cheap catcher. And the last game up, once again, is a pitching matchup. Pitching duel, like we could see last night between Rodon and Burns. We got Woodruff's been great since he's been back. He's 10-2. He's probably my favorite pitcher on the slate today. And Dodgers going up against Sandoval, always been good. I don't want to really target them too much. The 6-2-9 for the lineup is really weak, so the stack isn't that appealing for me. Going back over to DraftKings, first couple pitchers I'm looking at. Going to be Woodruff at 10-2. We saw him get up to like 90. He's gone over 90 pitches in last couple of starts. This one, last game before the All-Star break. So you could see him go a little bit deeper. We saw that yesterday with teams opting to let their aces go an extra inning or maybe a couple extra batters. And Woodruff, we saw what his teammate did last night against them with double-digit strikeouts. Could see Woodruff do something similar. Second pitcher is going to be Yu Darvish for me. Diamondbacks have a low total. Darvish has starting to become a lot better recently. He goes over 100 pitches routinely, 101, 101. Hasn't gone under 100 since the 1st of June. So he's consistent in that department. He's going 6, 7, 8 innings routinely. And Diamondbacks offense is not very scary. He's had 2 starts against him with a very nice .69 run ERA, averaging 20 fantasy points. At home, his fantasy points is over 10 points higher, 1.69 ERA at home. So gotta like Darvish at that cheap price tag. Other pitchers would be looking at potentially going down for like Zach Plesac at 72. Hunter Green for GPPs at 75 is because he can get you a lot of strikeouts, but otherwise, and maybe Ian Anderson at 66, but I have more confidence in Darvish for a little bit more. Going over to first base, first guy that you can look to get into your lineup, I'm going with Josh Naylor just to get to a value. He's only $3,800. Like the Guardians today, lefty-righty matchup for him. Had a home run again yesterday. He just hits for a lot of power. He has a high slugging, over 502 slugging. Out of his 59 hits, almost half of them, 25, have been for extra bases. So we know he gives you upside for doubles and home runs. Gets you fantasy points with RBIs, and he has done pretty well against the Tigers this year. Has 3 home runs in 6 games. Maybe you can add another one tonight. So for $3,800, definitely have some interest in Josh Naylor. Another one that I like the Rockies today, so I'm going Jose Iglesias just to get to a value piece from the Rockies side that will probably be batting second for them in the batting order. Going up against a lefty, he's also good against lefties. Not a power guy by any means, but just always a good hitter for average. This year he only has 32 strikeouts and 273 at-bats, so he's putting the ball in play. He's not done great in Coors. His average is low, but not too worried about it. Just recently he's been crushing it, double digits in a lot of these games. 30 fantasy points a couple days ago, and those were all at home, so he definitely has starting to hit the ball better in Coors and seems to be locked in. So hopefully he can continue to get some hits, get some runs scored, maybe get some RBIs as well. And the outfielder going Chris Bryant. He's expensive, but he's going to be my favorite power guy to play today in terms of the Rockies. Cron is in the mix, but I like Naylor for a little bit cheaper. But Bryant's been great recently, like his chance to hit a home run today. We know he's always good against lefties. If you look at his stats this year, he has a .333 batting average with 2 home runs against lefties. Look at his career numbers. He's batting .300 against lefties with 52 home runs in much less at-bats. So you know that the power is much higher against lefties. 269 ISO compared to 211 ISO. He's good against both sides of the plate, but against lefties, definitely turns it up a notch. So Chris Bryant is going to be another Rockies him and Iglesias get to a value and you get to an expensive guy, I think that's a pretty good way to start today. At third base, going Austin Riley, get to a power hitter from the Braves. Love the Braves today as well. And Riley's been on an absolute another level. It makes no sense how he did not make the All-Star team. He has 25 home runs. He's batting .284. What more can he ask for? In his last 10, he's batting .439 with 5 home runs. And we also know that he crushes lefties. If you look at his stats on Fangraphs or whatever site you use, pull up Austin Riley. He's locked in right now, probably playing with some anger after being snubbed from the All-Star team. And let's see what his stuff is against lefties. I'm sure it's really good. He's batting .314 against lefties with 7 home runs, so that's also crazy good. His power numbers against lefties this year, .372 ISO, 28% K rate is high, but the OPS over 1,000, .686 slugging. Love the chance for Riley to go deep today. Wouldn't be surprised if Riley, Chris Bryant, maybe Naylor all go deep today. That's it for DraftKings. Really love all the hitters here. We got a couple cheap guys with Naylor and Iglesias, and 2 guys with great matchups and great chance of going yard with Riley and Chris Bryant. FanDuel is the same plays, but I'll go ahead and just put them in for you guys. So on FanDuel, this is what I'm going with. Select to stick with a similar core if I can, unless some guys are just egregiously priced really bad. So Riley similar, $4,300 on FanDuel. Bryant similar, $42. Naylor's $32, and Iglesias is cheap on both sides. So I was able to similar pricing for all these guys. Woodruff is $10K, whereas Darvish is more expensive than him at $10.2. So I prefer Woodruff anyways, and get him a couple hundred less on FanDuel. It's a no-brainer. We got some good guys at catcher, first base, and guys that you can also play in the outfield as well. Like looking below $3,000, you have Kirk from the Blue Jays. You have Nola Alfaro if you're looking to target them against the lefties. But then you also have like Contreras if he's in the lineup for the Braves at $2,700 in terms of a power guy against a lefty. That's it for FanDuel. Let's go ahead and look at Prizepicks. All right, so on Prizepicks, we got good props from the strikeout board. There's a lot that I like here. We got Alcantara is not on the main slate at 640 start against the Phillies, but we know that he's always been reliable. He's been the most consistent pitcher in baseball this year. But the first prop I'm taking for the over strikeouts is going to be Brendan Woodruff at 6.5. Look at his stats here. Since he's been back from injury and missing about a month, he has three starts, 10, 8, and 9 strikeouts. He's averaged well over 6.5 strikeouts since he's been back, but his whole season sample is a little bit lower. He's hit this over 42% of the time, but it's still favored to the over heavily on sportsbooks, -132. The Giants will strike out, and he has had a lot of matchups against this team. He struck out Peterson over 33% of the time. Belt is, I don't even know if he's hurt, but he's back. So Belt, he struck out him 3 times in 7 at-bats. He has 66% K rate for Yastrzemski, 50% against Lamonte Wade. So it's just a good matchup for him to get some strikeouts. Hopefully he's able to continue to go over 90 pitches. I wouldn't expect anything else. He hasn't faced them this year, but last season he had 2 starts against the Giants, and he had 8 strikeouts in both. So the way that he's been going, continue to expect him to rack up the Ks today. Next up on Prizepicks, I am looking at the over 5 strikeouts for Patrick Sandoval. It is the matchup against the Dodgers, which some people are scared of. I'm not really one of those people, because we've seen the Dodgers, struggle with some pitchers at times this year, and the lineup is just not as good as it was when they were fully healthy. Like 6 through 9, you got 4 hitters that will strike out, and Sandoval's been always a pretty good strikeout pitcher on the sportsbooks. This line is at 5.5. Prizepicks giving you it at 5. It is favored to the under, so that's why maybe Prizepicks has it at 5. But would expect a push, maybe worst case. Obviously, he can get you a little like 4 strikeouts. But last 3 games, he's been great. He had 9 Ks against a tough Houston team, which doesn't strike out much. He had 10 Ks in his most recent start against the Orioles, and the Dodgers are middle of the pack at striking out against lefties. He has a nice 25% strikeout rate this season, and if you look at the lineup, you're going to get Thompson, who's getting at-bats against lefties, striking out 43% in his 30 plate appearances. Alberto's 21, Lux is 23, lefty isn't good for him. Barnes is 19, and then we'll see what the top of the lineup looks like. But the only guy that won't strike out too much is like Will Smith at 8.5, and Betts is always a little bit tough to strike out, but he's still over 15%, 16%. So I do like going to Sandoval, and yes, similar strikeout stuff against both sides. 26 against lefties, 25 against righties. So Patrick Sandoval over 5 strikeouts is the second prop that I am looking at. Hunter Green also looks good at 5.5. I mean, he's been hitting that a lot this year, but I'm taking over 6.5 strikeouts for Robbie Ray. It's also a very good number. Look at this Rangers lineup. They got some lefties here. Some of their better hitters are lefties, with Corey Seager got named to the All-Star team, and Nate Lau is also a strikeout guy, 20%. Seager, lefty, will strike out maybe a little bit more, but he's not a very high strikeout guy. A couple guys won't strike out start the lineup, but then you got 31 for Adolis Garcia, 43 for Tavares. It's a small sample size, but he still does strike out a lot. Culberson's at 24. We can look at last couple seasons sample. We'll look at both this year and last year's sample if you wanted to. So got more strikeouts for these guys. Tavares, it does strike out a lot, 38%, overall 25%. And if you look at Robbie Ray's numbers here, we can see this year and last year he's hit this 27 out of 50 games. Just this season, it's been a little bit under that, but recently he's shown some flashes with 12 strikeout game against Oakland, 10 strikeout game against the Angels, and he has had success against some of these Rangers hitters. Struck out Corey Seager 16 times in 40 plate appearances, which is a lot, just shy of like 45%. Basically, Lau, he struck him out 5 times in 8 at-bats. Brad Miller, if he's in there, which I doubt because it's lefty-lefty. But he also strikes out a lot, and Robbie Ray goes deep into the game. 6 innings routinely, goes over 90, 100 pitches at times as well. Those are 3 strikeout props I feel pretty good about. Looking at fantasy score props, Sandy Alcantara's in the mix at 39.5. He'd be one of my favorites. Yu Darvish in the mix as well at 41.5. Those would be 2 that I'm looking at, and then even Woodruff if you're not looking to take his strikeouts. A couple of hitter fantasy props I'm looking at would be from the Braves side. I like Austin Riley a lot today. He has just a great matchup against a lefty. I just showed you his numbers against lefties this year, and continues to crush it against lefties. And Corbin will give up home runs, will give up power, and could see the Braves put up a lot of runs today. So taking the over 8.5 fantasy for Austin Riley. And then we have the Coors game with Chris Bryant in the mix, and 8.5 fantasy. So that's it for me, and that's it for the video. This is the Prizepicks plays today. Woodruff over 6.5 strikeouts. Sandoval over 5 strikeouts. Robbie Ray 6.5 strikeouts. Riley 8.5 fantasy, and Chris Bryant 8.5 fantasy. Went 3-2 yesterday. Still been hot in our last 6 days, so hopefully we can keep it going today. Hopefully a sweep is right around the corner. That's it for me. Best of luck. Hope you guys make some money today, and I will see you all next time.